So if you didn't have time, could you please vote for my form? It has a simple question. Basically, do you know if you are messing on or how you are messing up your memoQ projects? It's not crucial, but it will look a bit nicer in my presentation if you vote. Things were said about me, but I want to thank my fans because my last presentation last year got so many people interested that now I'm promoted to the big room. So thank you. Okay, so let's see. Do you know? People are still voting, and we have no as a winner. Yeah. People who visited my last session last year might know what happens now because you have three options down on the bottom, and I will click the winning one, and you said no, and you'll never know. Thank you. But seriously now, let's begin. And we have the PDF. It pains me to see project managers that are still using PDF and consider memoQ or any other CAT tool as a PDF conversion tool. No. So if somebody says we have PDF and we imported it in CAT tool, it's worthless. So let's start with the PDF. Don't ever throw it in a CAT. The CAT won't like it. And you won't, and the translators will hate you for it. But I have clients saying that, okay, but we did a conversion and then we imported it in memoQ or in another CAT tool. That's the same thing. So it's not a loophole. You're not figuring out something good. It's just a loophole, and it's bad. And PDF has an evil twin. It's called a PowerPoint file. It's probably worse than the PDF because it's created by the client and they want it to look the same, and you have so many problems with PowerPoint. There's a session going on in parallel about InDesign. That's somehow a brother, which is all grown up, but can still do bad things. For people receiving InDesign files thinking, oh my God, I have a nice source file and everything is okay, no. I haven't seen one InDesign file that was properly created. One. Okay, so you have an original Word file. No conversion, everything was done from scratch. But is it really CAT-worthy? Because people don't know how to use Word files. They don't know numbering, they don't know bullets, and they do copy-paste from different documents, and you have line breaks, and so on and so forth. So treat your Word files as you would treat a PDF. Consider you have to do some pre-processing on the file. You have the files ready, so you're going to import it. Don't really import it with the default filters, unless you manage to process them in a template, so it's not really default, so it's a process default. Word. I'm really curious how many people are segmenting files on the tab character. Can you raise your hand if you're doing this? Oh my God, only 2 people. And the other people don't segment on tab. That's interesting. I always segment on tab because you have definitions and they usually are in a tabular format and they have like a tab. And it's easier to have the definition independent than from the text. Maybe it will help in the document for consistency and so many other things. And you have like a more segmented source text, so it's cleaner for the translator. We talked about PowerPoint. I had the a screenshot with how PowerPoint would look in memoQ without that special checkbox you have when you import it that says, that tries to clean the file. But I'm not going to show it because you'll be scared, so it's horrible. I would love for memoQ to have this by default, so the PowerPoint filter should have that checkbox by default, because otherwise people don't see it and don't understand the problems. Excel. You're not really messing up this, but it's something I'm getting annoyed, because whenever I see the sheet 1, sheet 1, sheet 2, and so on in the file coming for translation, why? It's just a simple checkbox where you don't import the sheet names. Because technically you could break Excel depending on how long that segment is, because I had this and I didn't know what was happening, and then I figured out that it was a sheet name that was changed and had like super long description, and I don't know the limitation, but it broke Excel. I couldn't export it. And multilingual Excel files. This is something you can really mess up your project with, because I see a lot of people having like huge projects with so many languages. So basically, whatever you do on the source language will impact the whole project. And usually people import multilingual files, but they don't segment the source. If you have like an Excel file, they consider the whole cell as one segment. Don't do that. You have to segment the text, and you have two options. You can segment for the line break, or you can, and you can use the language segmentation rules. So you can segment at full stop and so on. But do segment these multilingual Excel files. Since we're talking about segmentation, we have these two texts. And if anyone could say, what do you think the match rate would be between these two texts? Just say a number, any number. 80? Okay. So basically, they're the same. But Christy, you would say. We have the brand name, which is called as strawberry and sweet as strawberry, and those are definitely different. Yes, but you can add them as a non-translatable, and that won't make any difference. Apart from that, everything is just moved around. It's basically the same text. You do have some difference in values, but if you segment this correctly, using commas, using any character you see here can be used as a segmentation. This is how we process this type of text. Basically, you end up with a long list of very short segments, and each segment has an ingredient: water, strawberries. Everything is on its own segment. Because you have called as strawberry, you can have called as peach, and every single ingredient will have some small differences, but if you translate this as a whole, you probably won't get any matches. You'll have to go through the text like this. Okay, where's that missing text? And make sure that nothing is missing. It's a nightmare. So yes, segmentation, segmentation, segmentation. It's very important, and I think it's underestimated as a light resource in memoQ. It could be one of the most important light resource that can mess up your project. So you have like two types of segmentation. You have the one that you use in the import filter, and then you have the segmentation rules. The import filter does a lighter segmentation. Segmentation rules, you have more control over everything. HTML segmentation in Excel. You have, everybody was talking about the break, which is the break tag, which is very known as a segmentation, but you have li, which is list item. You have user ul, which is user list. You have p, you have n, you have so many other elements that you can use for the file, and you can do the segmentation there. Because those things happen in the segmentation rules, and I have a light resource that I created, and I added all those elements. So the text will be much, much shorter. And FYI, if you're using cascading filters, which are nice and cool, the segmentation won't work, because memoQ will first convert that text into tags, and then will try to apply the segmentation rules. But your segmentation rules have text, but your file now has tags. So there won't be any segmentation done. So don't use cascading filters in this situation. You can go nuts with basically any character you want to do the segmentation. You have legal documents that are like this, one segment, because lawyers don't understand the concept of numbering. So they have like A, B, C, and everything is in one segment. So if you're translating from English, you might go nuts with semicolon. What's the worst that could happen? And whenever you have abbreviations, exceptions, try and add them to your list. Don't just join the segment and say, OK, I'm fixing it on the spot. I don't know, add it in a notepad file, in anything, just to do it afterwards, because it will save you time moving on. OK. So a good PM. Maybe you can lose the beer bottle and the cigarette, I don't know. If that helps you become a good PM, then keep it. But a good PM, in my opinion, has to check the files thoroughly. And these are just motivational quotes, because I don't have anything specific to show you, and it's all up to you to go into the file and try to open your eyes and see everything that could create problems down the road. Anything you can spot, anything you can convert, any segmentation problems. You have to be really hands-on to be sure you're making everything you can to have a good project. So I'm going to go into screenshots now. And we'll start with special characters. And we've got dashes. And the first example has 4 types of dashes that if you look into the original Word file or any other file, you might not see them differently. They could look exactly the same. But if you look at the match rates, they're not the same. And you get 20% something difference for just one dash, which is just a dash. There's no other difference between these texts, just a dash. And then you have another situation with the dash and white spaces. And funny thing is, these 2 segments, what do you think is the reference segment that memoQ showed in the TM list? To which segment did it compare and give you the fuzzy match? Was it this one? No, it was this one. So memoQ thought this is closer than this one. And the translation came from that segment above. So not from the one that had both numbers in it, but from the one that had only one number in it. And again, you have the match rates going down only because white spaces, dash, and so on. We've got quotation marks and friends. I think this problem actually created the whole idea of my presentation, because we had a project where we had the apostrophe straight, and then it wasn't straight, and so on and so forth. And there were a lot of texts that should have been repetitions, but they weren't because of that small character. So if you look at the first one, it's a straight one. And then if you look at the last one, it's not straight. And the match rates are, again, very low for just a small character that doesn't change anything in the translation. And we have white spaces. You have dimensions, and clients usually have the values glued together. Sometimes you have non-breaking space. Sometimes you have spaces. In all these situations, again, you have different match rates for something that should be 99% at least. So, can you read this? The title. You can. This is more specific to Romanian because we have diacritics and we have people that don't know how to write in Romanian. So they would use the first segment is using legacy characters for two of them. The second one uses the new one, the official ones. And then you have the last one, which doesn't have any diacritics at all. And documents may have all of them, two of them, none of them. It's a mess for Romanian clients. And if the text is basically the same, it's from a story from Sleeping Beauty. And you can see, again, the differences in match rates. So I'm pushing for my project managers to, whenever they have a Romanian client that is translating from Romanian, and if the first file isn't perfect, they should consider everything from that point onwards without diacritics. Just remove them from the source whenever you do this. And the funny thing with memoQ, if you try to clean up your TM, let's say remove the diacritics from it and then import it back, it adds new segments because it's different source. So you'll have duplicates in your translation memory with diacritics and without. So you created a lot of things. You found a lot of things. The biggest problem is to make it consistent because you have to document everything and you have to share that information about anything, regex, segmentation, filters, all relevant resources. It doesn't help if I'm the only one that knows how to do this. You have to make it available for everyone and easy to reuse. And that's the tricky part. And let's address the elephant in the room. And I'm calling it an elephant because it's the translation memory, which usually is huge. And you have like a super cool analysis, but actually you have so many other problems in your translation memory. How do you get there? There are so many reasons. Consistency, you don't do maintenance. Don't be afraid to remove duplicates. If I have a huge TM, and I know there are so many problems in it, I remove duplicates like ignoring white spaces, ignoring tags, ignoring end punctuation, ignoring everything. So I choose to have more 99% matches than to have a lot of duplicates. So remove them. What I was talking about, the documentation, lack of time, that's usually something that happens very often, and lack of experience. I'm putting a quote there because experience is just a fancy way of you being curious. You have to be curious. You have to go into everything and try to see what that button does, and try to invest and to, I don't know, take responsibility for your project. So if you care about the project, you will see and you will learn a lot of things from it. And this is me. I spent more time on finding the right memes for it than on my actual presentation. And thank you.